Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Gareth, Key Account Manager at Vixio Gambling Compliance, based in London, and I'm here today with Allegra Lapetina, who leads our regulatory research team and is joining us from Washington, DC. Hello, Allegra.
Hi, Gareth. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good. So first, an introduction. For anybody who isn't aware, Vixio is a regulatory technology company serving both the gambling and payments industries. We are a trusted source of independent, authoritative, and actionable regulatory intelligence for compliance, regulatory, strategy, and development professionals in highly regulated industries undergoing rapid and radical change. We deliver comprehensive, time-sensitive, and actionable intelligence on payments and gambling, covering more than 180 jurisdictions across the globe, organized by product or service type. In today's webinar, we'll be looking at showing you how to use the Advertising Comparative Overview tool, which is one of the many tools available to Vixio Gambling Compliance subscribers. Firstly, to set the scene, we'll explain what the ACOT is, how it works, and where its information comes from. Then, we'll use the tool to run some comparisons of gambling advertising regulations in various jurisdictions. Throughout this, Allegra and I will have some conversations around the differing measures taken across the world. Finally, we will take some audience questions to close off. So, just looking to the Vixio homepage, first what we'll do is just show you how to find the tool. So let me show you how to find that. Across on the right-hand side, next to My GC, you have the My Tools element. Within the My Tools element, you will see the other various tools which are available to Vixio subscribers that act to supplement the regulatory content provided in our proprietary reports. Just clicking on Advertising Overview here. Allegra, before we dive in, can you explain what the tool does and perhaps why it was created?
Sure. So the Advertising Comparative Overview tool, the ACOT, provides you with a clear and concise picture of key responsible advertising measures for online gambling across Europe and North America, with a separate tool for each continent in a simple, easy to read format. The tool allows you to stay ahead of the evolving advertising landscape and assess the impact of the ever-changing restrictions across multiple jurisdictions in a single view.
Great. And you'll notice on here that Vixio will provide a definition of what each of these parameters are. Allegra, perhaps you can explain a little bit about these parameters and how the information is kept up to date.
Yeah, sure. So when creating the comparative advertising tool, Vixio's team of analysts compiled a list of some of the most prominent advertising restrictions implemented in markets across the globe. Our research of the global advertising regulations helps shape the parameters we've chosen to highlight in this tool. In terms of keeping the information up to date, at Vixio, we have a team of regulatory analysts who serve as subject matter experts in gambling compliance and regulations. So the analysts monitor the jurisdictions that we cover on an ongoing basis to check for changes in gambling regulations and requirements. We use a variety of tools to do this, from legislative monitoring services to AI-enabled monitoring of key regulatory events to ensure that nothing is missed. When a new regulation is enacted or legislation takes effect, our team of analysts update the intelligence on the platform in real time. So this means that if a reg change occurs that triggers an update to the comparative advertising tool, a country report, or really any other piece of regulatory content on the platform, the team is instantly getting to work on updating the report to ensure our customers are always viewing content that is accurate, comprehensive, and timely. One thing that's really important to note is that we only use primary sources to create our content. So this means that nothing goes into a country report or a Q&A that can't be backed up by verifiable legislation or regulations. Our job as analysts is to cut through the noise. And at Vixio, we pride ourselves on being that one source of truth. This means that everything you read that has been produced by an analyst will be accompanied by a citation, allowing customers to find the source of the information and then dig deeper if need be.
Perfect. Thank you, Allegra. Okay, then. So looking at Europe, which we have on screen, immediately, is there anything noticeable that sticks out?
Okay, so right off the bat, the first thing I want to note is that out of all of the European jurisdictions analyzed in this portion of the tool, only 3, Netherlands, Italy, and Estonia have all 10 of the restrictions monitored by the tool.
Okay, nice. And in 2023, we were closely following developments of the UK White Paper, Spain's royal decrees, as well as prospective advertising bans in the Netherlands and Romania. So if we were to use a few of those as an example, let's say you wanted to analyze media restrictions. So media restrictions defined here as restrictions as to the media channels that operators can use for advertising their gambling services, such as television, billboard, and social media. You'll know we had a fine recently in Italy for that very thing. So let's take a couple of those examples. If I take Romania, Netherlands, Spain, if we compare those, what you will see is that from the parameters chosen, you can see on screen that where there is a yes to that parameter, there will be a citation next to that. And you can see here, let's say for the Netherlands, if you wanted to click on that citation, it would take you off-site to that section of the regulatory area, so often on the regulator website. Those were some of the hot topics that we saw in 2023. Allegra, what do you see changing for 2024?
So we're definitely continuing to see a tightening of advertising restrictions across Europe. For example, in the Netherlands, which you just spoke about, there's actually a ban on untargeted advertising for online gambling that took effect last year. That means that advertising on TV, radio, and in newspapers and magazines is prohibited. That in July of this year, a ban on gambling sponsorships for events is set to take effect. Then looking forward in July 2025, yet another restriction is taking effect, this time a ban on sports sponsorships. One other thing you touched on was Spain. Spain continues to be a hot topic when it comes to advertising regulations. Just a couple of weeks ago, a royal decree took effect that established a number of new advertising and responsible gambling requirements, one of them being a prohibition on young participants, defined under the decree as ages 18 to 25, from being able to receive any kind of promotional activity that's unrelated to the gambling activity carried out on the operator's platform. So this includes tickets to matches, trips, etc., really anything to avoid incitement to gamble.
Interesting. Thanks very much, Allegra. And for our users, so the tool does cover North America as well. We're currently looking at Europe here, but for the Americas or North America, let's just take a look at that one. And one of the first things you will see is the option to pick a sector. So for this, let's take online casinos first. And you can see here they're separated into two tables.
Yes. So in North America, given that online casinos and online betting are often regulated via two different sets of laws and regulations, the comparative overview separates those two sectors out into two different tables. So when looking at online casinos in North America, it's pretty clear that online casinos are not nearly as prevalent in North America as they are in Europe.
Sure. So less jurisdictions, but that being said, there's still plenty to analyze here. So clearly some varying approaches. What can you tell us about what we've seen, Allegra?
One thing that I've always found interesting is the fact that not a single jurisdiction in North America has employed all 10 restrictions monitored by the tool. In fact, only 2 jurisdictions, Connecticut and Ontario, have 8 of the 10.
I can see, yeah. And Ontario, that's a relatively new market. Anything noticeable about those restrictions there?
Actually, yes. So just last month, new standards took effect in Ontario that prohibit operators from using athletes in iGaming marketing and advertising. The standards also restrict the use of celebrities, role models, and other figures that would likely be expected to appeal to minors. In Ontario, the AGCO, the regulator there, has aggressively enforced its standards that ban inducements in advertising and has consistently advised that it's going to continue to monitor the market to evaluate potential further restrictions.
Interesting. And you will see just on screen as well that if you wanted to access the primary regulation, you can click through to the full text there. So that part of the tool addresses the online casinos in North America. So just switching it over now to online and mobile sports betting on the other side of the tool. What can you tell us about the online and mobile sports betting, Allegra?
Yeah, so as we all know, sports betting became legal in the US in 2018 after the Supreme Court overturned PASPA. Once legalized, state legislators were left to choose whether or not to authorize sports betting in their respective states and then adopt their own legal frameworks should they choose to do so. And you'll see by the tool here, the result is a variety of legal frameworks with their own distinct advertising requirements.
Okay, so for example, we wanted to take location restrictions. Location restrictions being the parameter defined as prohibitions on the location of gambling advertising, for example, no advertisements to be located within a close proximity of schools or financial lending institutions, or perhaps no advertising where the majority of attendees are minors. I can see there's varying approaches across the tool for these, taking some examples from perhaps Maryland or North Carolina or Pennsylvania. What can you tell us about the different approaches that we see, Allegra?
Honestly, what we're seeing here is that there is no clear consensus on how to regulate gambling advertising in the US, with approaches really varying dramatically from state to state. Still, advertising restrictions are gradually being tightened in the US market, with several evident policy trends from new rules that we're seeing in New York, New Jersey, and other states. Some of these trends include advertising on college campuses generally being prohibited through either state laws or regulations, states holding operators responsible for marketing by third parties, including affiliates, and the use of terms such as risk-free being banned in any bonus offers. And these regulations are continuing to evolve, right? Nothing is set in stone. So key states to watch in 2024 include Massachusetts, where regulators in general are setting a higher bar on responsible gaming and consumer protection.
Thanks, Allegra. So it's fast-paced and evolving. One thing that listeners might notice is that the advertising tool addresses the current legislation, what is currently in effect. Mm-hmm. Is there anything on the site or anything that addresses pending legislation that may change and challenge the status quo?
Absolutely. So one of those, we have a number of things, but one thing that I'd want to touch on is Vixio's Outlook series, which is designed to provide customers with forward-looking insights, data analysis, and consolidated research on key segments of the global gambling industry, such as advertising. Each Outlook includes a legislation to watch table that highlights any regulations or legislation that are currently under consideration and may alter the future regulatory landscape. The tables aren't designed to provide a definitive list of every pending legal change. Rather, they're limited to select legislation that either has a strong likelihood of being passed or carries some other policymaking significance.
Great to hear. So people can definitely look out for the Outlook coming soon. As we know, advertising requirements in a given jurisdiction are constantly evolving. So it's good to have a place where customers can go to stay informed. Okay, just coming away from the screen share. Before we round off, let's try to answer some of the questions which have come in from the audience during today's session. We kind of just covered this one, but where can we check against upcoming changes? So happy to answer that. As Allegra mentioned, the tool highlights current regulations for comparison. Upcoming changes can be found across various different parts of the Vixio platform, from the news and analysis to country reports. However, my suggestion would be heading to the advertising in focus page, where regulatory updates are actually classified into 3 different types. So you've got informative, indicative, and actionable.
That's right, and actionable being the key here. For us, this is defined as a regulatory event where an action either could or should be taken, or a document type that has a legally binding impact on the business requirements of a regulated company. So that's definitely the biggest out of those 3 categories right there.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Allegra. When speaking to clients, it's certainly the call to action which is most important. Okay, next question. This one says, can we compare Brazil and LATAM? I'm happy to again answer that. So currently we've got Europe and North America, giving the user's ability to compare advertising regulations across Europe and North America. Allegra, however, I know this is coming soon. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, great question. This one is perfectly timed. The answer is yes. The team is currently working on the finishing touches of an advertising tool that will cover key jurisdictions in LATAM, including Brazil, Peru, and Colombia, among others. And the tool is actually set to go live this month, so stay tuned.
Perfect. And as I said before, that will supplement some of the proprietary reports that are available on site as well. Next up, so not a question as such. This one simply states, I cannot access the comparative overview. So it is worth mentioning that access to the advertising overview and ACOT tools, as well as some of the other tools in the My Tools section of the Vixio website, are permission-based. So that will vary depending on your company or sector or plan level. So using the ACOT, so for example, it may be classified as standard or core content for an operator or an affiliate, but instead it may be classified as premium content for a tech supplier or a PSP perhaps. I would recommend reaching out to your account manager, to myself, or to a client value specialist for clarification on how you can actually access that. All right, so next is a US question, Allegra. So one for you. You mentioned earlier a gradual tightening of advertising restrictions in the US. Could you elaborate on what's coming?
Absolutely. So in addition to the policy trends I spoke about in New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, there's also legislation pending at both the state and federal level. So in Kansas, for example, a bill is currently being considered that would prohibit sports betting advertisements from being published through internet websites, other online mediums, and electronic device applications. If enacted, that would certainly be a first of its kind in the US. And then there's also legislation pending at the federal level that would effectively ban all ads for sports wagering. And these are just two of the more noteworthy advertising related bills that are currently pending. There are various other bills and rules being considered in states such as Maryland and California, and our team of analysts are going to continue to monitor those as well.
And worth mentioning that, of course, we'll be doing the same for all other jurisdictions as well. So we'll wrap up there. But obviously, if you did want to know anything else about Vixio's advertising comparative overview tool or any of the other tools, if you'd like to discuss some of the options for getting access, then what you can do is visit vixio.com or drop us an email at info@vixio.com. Of course, feel free to get in touch with me directly through LinkedIn just by searching my name or with Allegra. Finally, to our North American-based viewers, if you are attending the SBC North America Summit in New Jersey, be sure to drop by the Vixio stand, which is A155, to meet the team. And of course, we'll be able to provide you with an on-the-spot demonstration of the Vixio platforms. Allegra, a special thank you for you to joining today and sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much.
No problem. Good to see you, Gareth.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.